With all that has been going on today and the last couple weeks, months, sometimes even years, with the elections and baseball games, soccer games, any big popular event, we always wonder what happens on the ground. Freeways get closed, roads get closed, special things for security, but nobody ever thinks about what happens to air travel. And that's what I want to talk about today. What are TFRs and NOTAMs? So a TFR is a temporary flight restriction. What that basically means is all around the airspace meaning everywhere above the ground, nationwide, worldwide. They have little highways, they're called airways, that you can go from point A to point B. You can get there how you want to, or you can take these airways. There's special points along the way. They have different names, like the Victor 185 Airway, Victor 159. They usually have different letters and numbers that correspond with where they start and where they end. Just like different roads have different numbers and different letters and where you go. Basically what happens, the FAA issues a little, it's like a big circle, but the circle can be anywhere from 5 miles of a radius to 30 miles. The 30-mile radiuses those are the big ones. Those are the ones you don't want to go near. Those are the ones when the president's in town, rallies are being held, things like that. The smaller ones, let's say for the Brewers, when the Brewers play. The Brewers have around a 10-mile radius. Basically, just a little red ring that shows up on a flight map, or when I go on a flight, I'll check them. You can see the whole state, just like a road map, except this one's always live and it's always updating. You can see little TFRs that show up all along the way. TFRs are very bad. Well, they're not bad. They're bad if you fly into them without the right precautions to start off with. And that brings me to my next topic, is how do you fly through one? Right after I got my pilot license, I actually flew through a TFR, but I did it legally, the right way. And the way you do that is you need to squawk a specific code, meaning every plane has what's called a transponder. It always is on. It's always on a code called 1200, 1200. What that code is, it basically just shows, hey, I'm up in the air and I'm flying around. If I were to go into Milwaukee Mitchell, if I were to go into Madison, I have to talk to special controllers and they issue me a special code. That code basically gives me a name. Everybody has individual names they go by on the street. Well, this basically gives your plane an identity. So what I had to do it is you have to be squawking a specific code. Mine was in the 4s. It's a 4-digit code, like 4523, a special code like that. You have to file a VFR flight plan, which means you have to file from where you're going to take off and where you're going to leave. Basically, so you take off, let's say we're going to file from Madison to Waukesha Airport. So you file, I want to depart Madison at 5:30 p.m. and I want to get to Waukesha, call it 6:15. So you set your departure and your arrival times in. You set how high you want to fly and how fast you're going to go, how much fuel is on board, and how many people are with you. For me, it was a little 2-seater, so I said 85 knots, 3,000 feet, and about 45 minutes en route. So I did all that. Now the air traffic control knows where you're going to go. Now you have to be talking to them. So as soon as I took off, in this particular case, I was coming from a burger fly-in, which was from Watertown back to Capitol Airport, which is in Brookfield. So as soon as I took off out of Watertown, I hopped on with Madison Approach. I told them who I was and where I wanted to go, and they gave me proceed direct route, basically giving me approval into the TFR. If you don't have approval to go into a TFR, you're gonna have a lot of problems. The FAA will come after you. The SWAT team usually comes after you. The police will come after you. Usually you'll get your license either suspended and you have to go talk to the FAA. There's a whole ordeal. And depending on how severe the TFR is, let's say a presidential TFR or a TFR over the White House, usually fighter jets, depending again on how fast you can go. For me, it'd be a helicopter, but a Black Hawk or that type of helicopter would come up and basically cut me off in the sky and force me to turn out of it. Or if I was, let's say, a commercial jetliner, an F-16 or a fighter jet would come up next to me, they'd parallel me, and they'd make me turn off and away. Then that's a whole nother ordeal. So then there's that, which brings me to our next topic, are NOTAMs. That's basically how I check for them. A NOTAM means a notice to airmen. What that is, NOTAMs are very broad. You can have a NOTAM for a runway being closed, a taxiway being closed, birds in the vicinity of the airport. Let's say, I know Madison's a good one, cranes in the vicinity of the airport, and they'll state the height, 212 feet, stuff like that. Basically what that does is it basically, as they're stated, it gives you a notice. Basically just kind of says, hey, this is going on, stuff like that. So using the FAA, using AOPA, a lot of these good sources. There's also the pilot websites I use. There's ForeFlight, AOPA, like I stated, FAA. There's just numerous websites you can go and check. So usually busting TFRs, you really, really almost have to try to do it, because every time I take off, or before I take off in all my checks, I'll go and I'll look and I'll say, okay, what's going on in the state today? And usually they'll show up as a yellow ring, kind of, hey, there's a, say today's the 8th, on the 11th, there's a TFR, and then I can click on, I can see how big it is, how severe it is, different altitudes, because you can overfly them at 18,000 feet, all sorts of different things. And with all that being stated, it brings me to my final closing topic of basically wrapping everything up. TFRs, you really, really want to be careful with them. It's almost like driving on a closed road that really, really says closed, except this road leads to the White House. Or it's almost like walking into the White House without being invited. They're going to wonder, hey, what are you doing? And they're going to make you get out. And the consequences can be very, very, very severe. So as I stated, to fly through a TFR, you have to be squawking a special code, you have to be talking to someone, you also have to be on a VFR or an IFR flight plan. With all that, you can safely fly through a TFR, and the way you can check through TFRs, you can use a NOTAM to check for a TFR. I hope all of you learned what a TFR is and what a NOTAM is. Thank you.